Hello and welcome to the next lesson. Now we have spent a lot of time getting R and RStudio working, learning about different functionalities in RStudio and R packages. You are practically an expert at this. There is one major functionality of R or RStudio that we would be remiss to not include in your introduction to R, and that is R Markdown. R Markdown is a way of creating fully reproducible documents in which both text and code can be combined, such as bullet points, bold text, italics text, links, or run inline R code. And by the end of this lesson, you should be able to do each of those things too, and more. Despite these documents all starting as plain text, you can render them into HTML pages or PDFs or Word documents or even presentation slides. The symbols you use to signal, for example, bold or italics, is compatible with all of these formats. One of the main benefits is the reproducibility of using R Markdown. Since you can easily combine text and code chunks into one document, you can easily integrate introductions, hypotheses, your code that you are running, the results of that code, and your conclusions all in one document. Sharing what you did, why you did it, and how it turned out becomes so simple, and that person you share it with can rerun your code and get the exact same answers you got. That's what we mean about reproducibility. But also sometimes you will be working on a project that takes many weeks to complete. You want to be able to see what you did a long time ago and perhaps be reminded exactly why you were doing this, and you can see exactly what you ran and the results of that code, and R Markdown documents allow you to do that. Another major benefit of R Markdown is that since it is plain text, it works very well with version control systems. It is easy to track what character changes occur between commits, unlike other formats that are not plain text. For example, in one version of this lesson, I may have forgotten to bold this word. When I catch my mistake, I can make the plain text changes to signal I would like that word bolded, and in the commit you can see the exact character changes that occurred to now make the word bold. Check out the video that the RStudio developers have released about R Markdown and what it is. The link will be provided in the blog post. Another selfish benefit of R Markdown is how easy it is to use. Like everything in R, this extended functionality comes from an R package called R Markdown. All you need to do to install it is running install.packages with R Markdown name, this query in the console region, and that's it. You are ready to go. Now load the R Markdown package by using this command in the console region. This will load the package. To create an R Markdown document, go to the file and then new file and then select R Markdown. Name your R Markdown file and this will open the R Markdown document. You will be presented with the window like this. I have filled in a title and an author and switched the output format to a PDF. Explore around this window and the tabs along the left to see all the different formats that you can output to. When you are done, click OK and a new window should open with a little explanation on R Markdown files. There are three main sections of an R Markdown document. The first section is the header at the top, bounded by 3 dashes. This is where you can specify details like the title, your name, the date, and what kind of document you want output. If you filled in the blanks in the window earlier, this should be filled out for you. Also on this page, you can see the text section. For example, this one which starts with /R Markdown. We will talk more about what this means in a second, but this section will render as text when you produce the PDF of this file, and all of the formatting you will learn generally applies to this section. And finally, you will see code chunks. These are bounded by triple backticks. These are pieces of R code chunks that you can run right from within your document, and the output of this code will be included in the PDF when you create it. The easiest way to see how each of these sections behave is to produce the PDF. When you are done with a document in R Markdown, you say to net your plain text and code into your final document. To do so, click on the Knit button along the top of the source panel. When you do so, it will prompt you to save the document as an RMD file. Do so and you should see a document like this. So here you can see the content of the header was rendered into a title followed by your name and the date. The text chunks produced a section header called R Markdown, which is followed by 2 paragraphs of text. Following this, you can see the R code summary cars, importantly followed by the output of running that code, and further down you will see code that ran to produce a plot and then that plot. This is one of the huge benefits of R Markdown, rendering the results to code inline. Go back to the R Markdown file that produced this PDF and see if you can see how signify you want text bolded. Hint is to look at the word knit and see what it is surrounded by. At this point, I hope we have convinced you that R Markdown is a useful way to keep your code and data and have set you up to be able to play around with it. To get you started, we will practice some of the formatting that is inherent to R Markdown documents. To start, let's look at bolding and italicizing text. To bold the text, you surround it by 2 asterisks on either side. Similarly, to italicize the text, you surround the word with a single asterisk on either side. We have also seen the default document that you can make section headers. To do this, you put a series of hash marks. The number of hash marks determines what level of heading it is. 1 hash is the highest level and will make the largest text. Let us try this. 2 hashes is the next highest level, and so on. Play around with this formatting and make a series of headers like so. The other thing we have seen so far is code chunks. To make an R code chunk, you can type the 3 backticks followed by the curly brackets surrounding a lowercase r. Put your code on a new line and end the chunk with 3 more backticks. Thankfully, RStudio recognized you would be doing this a lot, and there are shortcuts, namely Ctrl+Alt+I for Windows or CMD+Option+I for Macs. Additionally, along the top of the source quadrant, there is the insert button that will also produce an empty code chunk. Try making an empty code chunk. Inside it, type the code print hello world. If you are not ready to knit your document yet but want to see the output of your code, select the line of code you want to run and use Ctrl+Enter or hit the run button along the top of your source window. The text hello world should be output in your console window. If you have multiple lines of code in a chunk and you want to run them all in one go, you can run the entire chunk by using Ctrl+Shift+Enter or hitting the green arrow button on the right side of the chunk or going to the run menu and select run current chunk. One final thing we will go into detail on is making bulleted lists like the one at the top of this lesson. Lists are easily created by preceding each prospective bullet point by a single dash followed by a space. Importantly, at the end of each bullet's line, and with 2 spaces. This is a quirk of R Markdown that will cause spacing problems if not included. Let us try this. Now knit this document. You should remember all the changes that we made to this document. You can see here that we created 2 extra headings, one with the single hash whose size is greater than the previous heading and one with the 3 hash. You can also see that we bolded the text as you can see here. You can also see that we italicized the text. You can see here we added the extra chunk of code. You can see here and the output to that code with this plot. You can also see the hello world command, and finally you can see the list that we created. This is a great starting point and there is so much more you can do with R Markdown. Thankfully, RStudio developers have produced an R Markdown cheat sheet that we urge you to go check out and see everything you can do with R Markdown. The sky is the limit. Link will be provided in the blog post as every time, so check that out. So in this lesson we have delved into R Markdown, starting with what it is and why you might want to use it. We hopefully got you started with R Markdown, first by installing it and then by generating and knitting your first R Markdown document. We then looked at some of the various formatting options available to you and practiced generating code and running it within the RStudio interface. See you in the next lecture.